I call to order this work session of the Hillsboro School District Board of Directors. Before we begin, we would like to provide some important information about interpretation services. Please remember to speak clearly and directly into the microphones at a moderate pace. Please do not speak over one another so that the interpreters can accurately convey your message. Thank you for your cooperation. And our first agenda item is facilities usage update with Saide.
Thank you, Board Chair Pantoja. I have with me tonight Director of Extracurricular Services, Ryan Petrick, and the presentation you're going to receive is essentially an overview of a cost analysis of our facility usage. Ryan is going to walk us through and share a little bit of that cost analysis, an explanation as to why we conducted a cost analysis, information that was gathered, and ultimately the proposed adjustments to our facility usage fees moving forward. And then later this evening, there are going to be a few items with respect to ARs. So those ARs are in line with this presentation. So I'm going to turn it over to Ryan to walk us through the process.
Thanks, Saide.
Thank you, Ryan.
Great to be here, everybody. My name is Ryan Petrick, like Saide said, and I'm happy to be here to talk a little bit about facility usage and rental fees in the Hillsboro School District. One of the things we're blessed with in Hillsboro is that we've got a lot of awesome schools and facilities, which are a tremendous asset for our community, which use these facilities continuously after hours. And so while many of us go home from work every day, we tend to fill up our buildings with all kinds of kids and adults and programs that are great for the community. But it obviously comes at a cost for us in the school district. And I'm going to try to get my pointer to work.
That was me. I'm going to click it.
Okay, thank you for doing that. So as Saide alluded to, we have done a facility cost analysis. And for those of you that aren't up on this with how our school district organizes and operates these usage, after hour usages, we use a scheduler called Facilitron. And so it is a outward facing, public accessible portal where people can come in and take a look and see what's available in the Hillsboro School District, and then make reservations to be able to use our facilities. So we work and work with Facilitron to help us determine what our costs are when it comes down to basically a cost per hour. And so you can kind of see that there's a couple of formulas up there in the boxes on that slide. And I'll quickly address a couple of these things. But the operating costs are things like the amount of toilet paper that we might use when it comes to groups coming in, the amount of water that we use, the HVAC that's turned on, the light costs. Program costs are more like administrative costs of people in the district and their time for helping work with outside groups and community groups to use our facilities. And then the capital costs, like the long-term effects of usage on our facilities, whether it's a basketball court or a turf field, et cetera. So when you take those three things together, and you divide them by the total square footage, we get a facility cost per square foot. And then you can see that basically that's how we come down to a facility cost per hour for our facilities. So it's important for us to know, like, what is the cost, the real cost or the direct cost to us for our facilities. You can go ahead and advance it. Thank you. So this slide, basically is a few pictures I want to address here, but it's important for us to do a cost analysis so we know what it takes to take care of our facilities and basically make them usable for not only our students, but for the public. And in this, in our current, era of education, We don't have a big budget for us to rely on from year to year to take care of problems. We essentially rely on about every 10 years, if we are fortunate enough to be able to float a community bond that's passed, we can put some items on there that are able to address some of the capital costs and some of the maintenance things that we need. Other than that, we're pretty limited in what we can do. And a couple of examples of that, just for people to understand, is there's a picture of a theater up there with lights. Some of these theater lights for our productions can cost as much as $500 a piece. So when those lights get used and get burnt out, that's a pretty big cost to have to replace, a handful of those bulbs. That usually ends up being absorbed by the school or by kids fundraising. There's a picture on there of a broken screen that happened recently at one of our schools. That is estimated to cost about $12,000 to replace. And our schools generally don't have that kind of money to be able to get those things fixed and replaced. And I don't have a budget to be able to help with that. There's a picture of our track. That's at Hare Field. It's an awesome community venue. It gets used all the time by our kids. Well, Hill High and Glencoe use it regularly, and it's used by Hillsboro Parks and Rec and everybody else. And you can see on that picture that the track is so old that we've had to cut out pieces of it and come in and put in new chunks of turf in there. And if you get up really close to it, there are big, large gaps in the track because of that. And then a real simple thing is that we've got some awesome turf areas that are highly popular in the district. But we don't want to allow people to come into the buildings on weekends when they're renting out a turf facility. So we need to be able to provide porta potties for people, to be able to use and community members to use. Even providing and coming up with the funds for porta potties has been a challenge for us. So it's important for us to realize what the costs are of our facilities, so that we can determine how the community can help us keep these valuable resources in good enough shape that people are able to adequately use them and access them. You can go ahead and forward it. This is simply a graph. The gray part is on there just because we wanted to keep these groups confidential, but this is a Tier C nonprofit. So we have a lot of nonprofit organizations that are going to use, our facilities. They do great stuff. And I'll just use that first line item as an example. You'll see there that first number is 30 to the right of the square. That's the number of hours on this particular rental reservation. So this group rented something for 30 hours. This particular report doesn't show what it was, but the group rate was $377. So that's what we charged this group for 30 hours of usage on whatever the facility was. Our direct cost as a district was $2,700 for a cost gap of $2,329. So what we see repeatedly in our reservations is that we have pretty large cost gaps. And so we're subsidizing a lot out of our general fund for a lot of these activities and things that are happening after hours. You can go ahead and forward it. Thank you. So this is just an overview of what our direct cost gap was for this last year. We basically have a 4-tier system that we're looking at. The first tier is not listed on there because that's simply our schools and what our schools are doing during the day, and we're not talking about that. We're talking about everything that happens after school or after hours. So we have a Tier B. Tier B are our affiliates, our Hillsboro Parks and Recreation contract, or any other contract that we enter with another entity in the district. Our direct cost gap on that was about $3.9 million this last year. For Tier C, this is nonprofits, which often include other schools or government entities. Our direct cost gap was about 1.3 million. And then Tier D is for-profits or personal use, people renting out places in the district, and that was about $450,000. One of the things that I wanted to just draw attention to on this slide is the reason why Tier B is so big at 3.9 million is because we have an IGA with the Hillsboro Parks and Recreation Department where we don't bill each other back and forth. We just share our spaces with each other. So the Hillsboro School District provides the space for the majority of the Hillsboro Parks and Recreation activities. Most of their stuff happens on our school district property. So that's something that we do as part of that partnership with them. The affiliates are really, you can think about your youth programs that are there to funnel directly into like a high school program, all right? It's our kids, HSD kids. It's not kids from other entities. So that's why that one is bigger. You go ahead and forward it. Thank you. So just a little recap and a timeline here. So in 2019, we adopted new rates with a 3-year rollout plan that was going to charge the Tier C nonprofits 20 to 30% of our direct cost, or what our real cost is for a facility. For nonprofits, we were going to start at 70% and end at 100%. Then the coronavirus hit, and we basically shut things down for a couple of years, and we froze that plan and never changed the rates from year one. So since 2019, we've been charging 2019 cost rates at essentially 20% for nonprofits and 70% for profits. Again, those are the pre-COVID direct cost numbers. So it was important for us to have Facilitron come in and update, what are the real costs. I mean, obviously things have become, more expensive since 2019. So our recommendation going forward is that we need to true up these numbers and the numbers of the direct costs for our facility rates, which I'll show you here in an upcoming slide, and then go ahead and restart our 3-year rollout with some new percentages on there. 33% for nonprofit, for-profit starting immediately at 100%, 2026, 27, 42% for nonprofits, and then 27, 28, 50% for nonprofit groups. Go ahead. So again, this is how I'm going back to that tier chart. There you see Tier A on there. That's the district or school coordinated activities that I mentioned earlier. There is no charge for that group. There's no implications. We're never going to charge, our own schools, our own programs, rental fees for using the facilities. There's still no charge for Tier B. That's Hillsboro Parks and Rec and school affiliates. Sometimes that's called district expanded within the Facilitron language. That's why that's on there. And then Tier C, we would be moving to 33%, then 42%, and then 50% of the direct cost. And then Tier D, it would go to 100% of the direct cost. Go ahead and forward it. So this is really small, and I can't see these, but from where I'm at right now. Essentially, this was just to give you a taste of like what this will look like for people that are renting the facilities. So if you take a look at the top row, the art gallery, there really isn't a whole lot of difference right there. It's kind of hard to believe, but right now we would charge somebody $2.78 an hour to use our art gallery at Hill High, which doesn't come close to covering what it takes to turn on the lights and to turn on the HVAC. It's absurd, really. Then you move yourself over those, I think it's red. I'm sorry, I'm colorblind. I don't know why I put color into my charts. But I think it's red and it's the years are on there. You can see that those are going to go up, each year. On the very far right of that chart, you'll see that that's our direct cost on that direct cost column. So you can see that if you're a tier C, you're still getting a discount, but we're asking you to pay a more fair percentage of what the real cost is for us, in hopes that we can, increase some revenue, be able to return that to help some of our facilities so we can address some of the needs that come up that are inevitably going to happen. Now, if you go down on that chart, you're going to see large gym. You're going to notice that that's a little bit steeper. Gyms are really, really popular. They also take a lot of HVAC. They have a lot of lights. They have a lot of square footage. So that's going to look a little bit different. But those are all of our rates there for kind of the indoor areas that we would rent out to the community. And then this next one is kind of the same chart, but it's just for outside areas. So this was just to give you a little bit of a taste, again, of those outside areas, what we would be looking at charging. And again, that estimated direct cost is based on the Facilitron's formula and their help with us when it comes down to putting together all the pieces that it takes to make those available, to upkeep those, and to heat and to light those facilities. So this is an estimate based on last year's facility usage hours, just so you know, like, what is the overall impact of this? So again, Tier B, our direct cost gap was $3.9 million. We are not talking about charging Group B. So again, we're not talking about charging more or different people in this. Those groups are still going to remain the same. The change is going to come to Tier C, where we would have our nonprofits fall. So at 33% rate, we would gain back about $400,000. 26, 27, 546, 27, 28, $650,000. And then you can see the same calculation for the Tier D, which is the for-profit groups. And then at the bottom of that chart, you see the total cost recovery in there. And so essentially, what we're doing is providing us with an opportunity to be able to hopefully better meet some of the needs of our facilities, to be able to keep those up and running and functional. Thank you. So that shouldn't say rental rates, outdoor facilities up there. It should say communication plan. But we would like to do a community communication regarding updated rental fee rates by January 31st. And then we've talked about starting this rate changes on June 1st. And the reason being is that essentially by June 1st, we're starting the summer rental season. And we've concluded, for the most part, this school year. And so our summer rentals really start in the 1st of June. This would provide any of the folks that are looking at renting our places 6 months in advance to know this information. And we don't usually rent out our facilities more than 3 months in advance. Kind of 3 months is kind of, for the most part, the sweet spot for our rentals. So this communicate in January to everybody using Beth and all of her, I don't know what the right word is, but all of her channels, yes. I was going to say all of your magic, your communication magic, and then implement these starting June 1st. And that's really my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions that I can address.
Thank you very know what the cost of our facilities are. I'm just wondering if we can even be more targeted, a little bit more intentional, to give, we track and we know who rents our space. So we should be able to tell everybody within a month period of time with effective communication that the rates are going up, like the rates are going up. We can't afford to not have them escalate. If we have to wait until June 1st, it makes sense. But I would want to be a little bit more intentional, at least by, especially for the people who we know are renting it during our school academic year, to say to them, this is a change coming. You're fine where you are right now, but come the next coming year, things are going to be different. And that will give them additional time to prepare their budgets. But I think we have to do what we have to do.
Okay. Thank you for that input.
Director Lopez?
Sorry.
I'm online. Hi, Ryan. I just had a question
Hello.
on the calculation about the operating cost and the program cost, and it goes into the square footage. In that operating cost, is there wear and tear and maintenance that is calculated in that, or are we not accounting for that?
Yeah, that's correct. They do put that as part of the cost in there. So, like for example, you're talking about cleaning basketball floors almost every night after the community is done using them. You're talking about like refinishing them, every year, and just general maintenance costs. So that is a part of it.
Okay. And then I have two more questions. One was around the affiliates. And I know you mentioned the example of the city, but that's a government agency. Is there other affiliates, or how does one get designated an affiliate? Is there like a process, or I know there was an asterisk at the bottom of one of the slides that said you had to prove 80% or something like that.
Yeah, so I'm glad you asked that question. So one of the things that we've tried to do is we've tried to what's happening across our area is that there's a large battle and competition for facilities. Okay, and so we get requests from organizations that are in Hillsboro. We get requests from organizations that are outside of Hillsboro. And so our philosophy is that we should make sure that we are prioritizing our Hillsboro residents, number one, and that everybody else, is going to fall to the back of the line, and we will place them as we're able. So the affiliates is really a way for us to make sure that those programs that are our Hillsboro kids, the purpose is for Hillsboro kids that are like a feeder program for, one of our schools.
Hill High Youth Football.
Yes, Hill High Youth.
Boys Baseball.
Yeah. Those types of things. If a organization can prove that they have 80% or more HSD kids, then we count them as an affiliate. And so what we ask them to do is we ask them to submit a roster with us with the addresses, and then we give it to the transportation department, who can verify if they are Hillsboro kids or not. And so that's essentially where we draw the line. If we didn't do that, we would have so many programs that would be competing for our time from all over the Portland metro area, that it wouldn't be fair to our kids. So that's what the affiliate designation is for.
Gotcha. So if they can't prove that they're 80% of our kids, they would be charged the for-profit?
Yeah,
okay.
That would be they'd be a nonprofit entity.
A nonprofit. Okay. And
yeah.
What about
so
after? Sorry, go ahead.
No, that's fine.
I was just gonna say, what about after-school activities like clubs? I was thinking about sometimes we have the Lego club that stays after school, or Ballet Folklorico. But if they're affiliated with that school or serving those specific students, do they have to pay?
No, anything, so anything that our schools produce, or sponsor right after school for our kids is, of course, free. There's no rental on anybody like that. I mean, that's just part of the school experience. We're just talking about all of the things that come in, from the outside that are after school. A lot of these programs, are adult type programs, all types of programs, but the ones that are right after school for our kids, of course, no, they're not affected by this at all. They're tier A, so they don't pay anything.
Gotcha. Thank you, Ryan.
I have a couple of questions. Oh, sorry, I was speaking. A couple of questions. First of all, so tier D, the for-profit businesses, has any consideration been given to charging more than 100%? Because I'm thinking of if a company wanted to rent the ballroom at the Hilton, they wouldn't just be paying the Hilton's cost. The Hilton would want to make a profit on that, so they would be paying. Normally, if you rent a space, you're going to be paying cost plus, so it's a facility rental. So I'm wondering if these for-profit businesses are making a profit, should we be charging them more than just costs?
It's a good question. I like the way you think. I don't. I mean, that's a consideration I guess we can make. I mean, that's a discussion that we can have. If there's support around that, we can certainly do that. I think in our line of thinking, it wasn't. Again, it's not like we're not trying to make money off the public. We just want to get enough back that we can keep our facilities in a good space for them, so that they can continue to be used. And right now, we're not able to do that. So maybe that's something we need to take a look at.
We also want to be competitive enough that they do come and use our facilities, as opposed to another location that if we start charging 150%, they may choose not to use our facilities, and we won't be able to take advantage of those funds.
Sure. Yeah, that's good information. And then my other question is, I noticed in a subscript here that schools receive 25% of their school revenue. So if we're trying to match costs, have we done an analysis to say, well, the costs of replacing things that are borne by schools is around 25% of the total cost compared to what the district pays in the accounts? Are we giving it to them because we're expecting them out of their accounts to pay for wear and tear 25%, or?
No, I think that the reason that we did that, and that's fairly new, but we wanted to reward the schools for being good hosts to having community groups come into their buildings. It's not always a great thing when you're a building principal and you've got a million things to worry about, and then on top of that, you've got community groups that are in your building and something goes wrong and you show up the next morning and the custodian is already angry and that's what you walk into, and so we wanted it so that there was some money going back to the school that would benefit, the students and staff of the school. So essentially, that's the purpose of that. They're not in charge of using that money to necessarily purchase anything or to pay for anything that's related to the usage. It's supposed to be like an incentive for them to help them be open to having groups, come into their buildings, because we believe that these are community assets and they should be used by the community. And so it's just helpful for our schools to be able to receive a little kickback that's going to help them for having people in their buildings.
So really, even if we charge 100% of the cost to every group, we'd still really 5% because 25% of that.
Yeah, that's fair to look at it that way. Yeah.
Thank you for.
Yeah.
There is a specific example that I had in my mind when you put the tiers up, and I like that idea. My son just graduated from Liberty High School, where we have these beautiful outdoor turf fields for a private soccer group to come in, and I'm just hoping that particular group is on the tier D 100% profit, they're going to pay for what they're doing. Is that a good statement or a bad statement?
That Tier D group entered into a contract with our district decades ago, and their contract comes to an end at the end of this June, and then they will be moving from Liberty, and that's all I can tell you at this time. But yes, a group like that, we would expect to pay, an hourly rate because they are not an affiliate of the Hillsboro School District, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
With the increased rental fees, do you anticipate that there will be a decrease in the number of rental requests based on kind of the people who rent from us? And if that is the case, there a downside from the district perspective of having less people renting our facilities?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I don't know the answer to that. I mean, we'll have to see how the behavior, changes as these, rates go in. The one thing I do know is that we do not have enough turf fields and enough gymnasiums to meet the need in the community. There's not enough of them. So everybody is fighting over them. Everybody wants them. There is huge demand for it. And, ultimately, I think that, people are going to be kind of in a situation where they don't have a lot of alternatives. We've looked at the costs from other surrounding districts. What does it cost in Beaverton to rent out a gym? What does it cost in Lake Oswego? What does it cost in Portland Public? Our new numbers here are very competitive with those municipalities, essentially. And so I don't think that we're way above like kind of what the going market is on those numbers. But ultimately, we'll have to see how it goes.
How do our costs compare with Hillsboro, like the city of Hillsboro? Like they can start.
I honestly, I don't know. When you say like the city of Hillsboro, I mean, they primarily, other than, Hidden Creek, they primarily use our gyms. Our gyms are their gyms because of our contract. So
that's pretty going both. Right, the city of Hillsboro would have a slide saying how much all of our water polo clubs and teams, all of our swim teams use the city of Hillsboro.
And they're Tier B, right?
They're to be because we have that intergovernmental agreement with them, which we get to use, like we don't have an aquatic center, so that's a big piece for us. We get to use Shark, we get to use the stadium. Those are the primary facilities that we use of theirs.
Go ahead. Oh, Kelly, you have a question?
Yes, thankfully largely answered by everyone else here. Wanted to chime in on the aquatic center since I happen to work there part-time. Many Liberty students, as well as I am sure many other non-Liberty students, get to use the outdoor pool as part of Hillsboro Heat, which is never mind, I apologize. No.
No, you're on the right pathway. Know exactly what you're talking about. Hillsboro Heat, the swim club, and the pool, yes, they are intertwined. That interagency agreement that we have that we're talking about, that's how we share those expenses. That's how we share those facilities. You are on the right path, so you're there.
Any other questions, Mark?
So glad we have this program anyway. I understand we haven't raised our rates since 2019, but yes, these are community resources. The community pays taxes to build all of them. I'm very glad that we make it available. As a parent of 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th grade Century Girls youth basketball, was grateful to be able to play at Imlay and Century. It's absolutely necessary for our youth programs to be able to have our facilities to help feed that pipeline of activities. Extracurricular activities are a huge priority for this board. So that's awesome. And the fact that, for profit, we're talking about a push, the nonprofits just helping to carry. So even if we do see a decrease in usage, I think there probably be people in line to take over those. But just weird question, like on the tier groups, other government entities, is that like when Senator Wyden wants to use the gym for a town hall? What would other government entities be in the tier C? All of that?
Yeah, I mean, I think anytime that we have like something that is like a community-based, maybe it's a forum like that, are going to gather in the community. What's that?
Chamber?
What?
Chamber, kind of.
Could be the chamber, but like, yeah, if we have,
It's just like a week.
it doesn't happen a whole lot, no.
And yeah, and like Hillsboro, to your point, stadium for graduations. I appreciate our cooperation with the city of Hillsboro that goes both ways. In one of the slides it said other schools were tier B or tier. Is that like when something at Imlay wants to use the Century Gym, or is that like when a Beaverton school wants to use one of ours?
No, I mean, yeah, I mean, we love our neighbors to the, what are they, east? We never let them use our facilities. I just got a thumbs up from the superintendent. No, it's more like we have some local schools here in the Hillsboro area that primarily serve Hillsboro kids that don't have facilities.
Like St. Matthew's were.
Yeah, and so we've essentially, played nice with them historically because they're likely Hillsboro residents, and so they're just going to a different school. And so we try to make our facilities available for them when we can so that they can have some programming. One that pops into my mind is like Faith Bible School. They have a track program. They don't have a track. So we try to find a little bit of track time for them.
And by starting communication January 1st, there, in about a 3-month, we don't have a whole lot on the books for June, July, August. That would be I'm guessing there's anything that's already on the books be grandfathered in, whatever rare occasion that we have something already scheduled.
Yeah, there's very little scheduled. Yeah, there's very little that's scheduled 6 months out. So we're pretty much starting with a clean slate. We usually don't do summer scheduling until about April anyway, so.
I think a lot of these outside groups have access to Facilitron, so like some restricted access. Like it doesn't require a school employee to schedule them in Facilitron. So they'll just see their rate change in Facilitron and they can choose to do it and say, yes, I'll book it or no, right? Yeah. Okay. Okay, cool, thanks. Great idea.
Great, thank you, Saida and Brian. Our next agenda item is to discuss Education Equity Committee appointments with Francesca.
So all I have for you is we went through the same process as we did last time. We have 2 additional students, as we had 2 that graduated early last year, and we did not know about this until after the last time we had met with all of you. So we have 2 other students who have stepped up, whose applications were in your packet, as well as a returning staff member who has been on the EEAC but had forgotten to turn in their renewal to be on the team again. So those 3 are for your consideration. Are open for you to ask any questions about, but I'd like to move forward and bring them to the next January Educational Equity Advisory Committee.
Thank you to the students and Olga for their interest in volunteering for the EEAC, and thank you for the information. We will now recess this work session at 6:58 and begin the regular session downstairs in the boardroom.
We will begin like we always do with the flag salute, and the flag is in the back corner. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next, I will be reading the Hillsboro School District Land Acknowledgement. As we gather here today, we would like to take a moment to acknowledge that our district service area is on the occupied traditional homelands of the Alphaleti indigenous people lands we now call Washington County and the state of Oregon. We honor the indigenous peoples whose traditional and ancestral homelands we stand on the Tualatin, Kalapuya, Willamette, Clackamas, Tumwater, Molalla bands of the Chinook, and many other indigenous nations of the Columbia River. In remembering these communities, we honor their legacy, their lives, and their ancestors. We recognize the urban, indigenous, native, First Peoples community living in the metro area, which includes over 400 tribal nations. The Hillsboro School District is committed to the recognition and the education regarding tribal and local history and working with our local tribes in partnership. Next, before we begin, we would like to provide some important information about interpretation services. Please remember to speak clearly and directly into the microphones at a moderate pace. Please do not speak over one another so that interpreters can accurately convey your message. Thank you for your cooperation. Our next agenda item is the approval of the agenda. Would anyone like to make a motion?
I move that the Board of Directors approve the agenda as printed.
Second.
It has been moved by Director Ward, seconded by Director Watson to approve the agenda as printed. Is there any discussion? Motion carries. Our next agenda item is to approve the consent agenda. Would anyone like to make a motion regarding the consent agenda?
I move that we accept the consent agenda as written.
Second.
It has been moved by Director Thomas and seconded by Director Watson to approve the consent agenda as printed. Is there any discussion? No, motion carries. Our next agenda item is audience time. Great. I will be reading. As representatives of the community, members of the Board of Directors believe that listening to public input is essential to making wise decisions, so we thank you for taking the time to be here. We consider this your time to speak and our time to listen, so individual board members will not reply directly to you immediately following your comment. If a board member hears something that requires additional attention, they may request it to be added to a future meeting agenda, or the superintendent or his designees may reach out directly to contact you. We are fortunate in the Hillsboro School District to have a collaborative community that can discuss points of disagreement in a respectful manner. With this in mind, rudeness, ridicule, obscene or profane language, impatience, lack of respect for others, and personal attacks are not acceptable. Comments aimed at state and federally protected classes are prohibited. Audience demonstrations supporting or opposing a speaker or idea are not permitted. We welcome frank discussion of district operations and programs, but in public sessions, the board does not hear comments regarding any individual district staff member. Public participation in board meetings is governed by policy BDDH, public comment of board meetings. There are structured channels for the board to review complaints involving staff members, described in board policy KL, public complaints. As you start your remarks, please share your name, and if speaking for an organization, the name of your organization. We allow up to 3 minutes for each public comment. Please feel free to follow up by email to the board or the superintendent.
Okay, Christina Cosmas. Come to the podium.
To the podium.
Thank you.
No.
I think I got it. Is that on now? Can you hear me all right? All right, thank you. All right. Thank you for your time and allowing me to speak today. My name is Christina Costas, and I am a first grade teacher at Farmington View Elementary. I've been a teacher at the Hillsboro School District for 22 years, and I'm here today because there is a huge crisis going on in our schools that is putting our students' learning and safety at risk. I have 20 students in my class, which in any other year would be wonderful, but this year half of them have behavior issues that demand individualized attention. It is normal for a teacher to have 2 to 3 students max that require different incentives and strategies to foster positive behavior. It is not normal for a general education teacher to have half of their class requiring special education methods and data tracking used in day treatment centers or life skills classrooms. This is not a me problem. This is a problem running rampant district-wide, especially in our K-2 classrooms. Children have changed after COVID, especially those who spent their key developmental years in isolation. Many of these students are lacking ways to regulate their emotions and are demonstrating impulsive and unsafe behavior. This is the first year in my 22 years of teaching I have had problems with full-on swearing, bullying, and sexually inappropriate words and gestures from first graders. Children are moldable and they are teachable. When I sit one-on-one with my high behavior needs students, we have great discussions and learning opportunities together. We are bonding and forming relationships. But when you have the teacher grossly outnumbered, the process can take years. And worse, the students who are well-behaved start to get frustrated and act out too because they see it from many of their classmates. At a behavior training I went to this school year, the facilitator played a video of using a collaborative problem-solving strategy with a kindergartner who was autistic and continually had tantrums. After a couple weeks of using this strategy in a life skills classroom, the kindergartner was able to join the regular ed class and be successful. We need to be realistic. The needs of our students have changed after COVID. We should not be denied an LSS or limited support specialist when one is applied for. We should not have life skills classrooms shut down. Do you know how hard it is to collect data on 10 students for 6 weeks straight, meanwhile perform regular curriculum planning, do grading, have after-school meetings, maintain continual contact with parents, and constantly monitoring and adapting your teaching until you find the right niche that works for a student? When a teacher is miraculously granted a temporary LSS, it is another struggle to get the job filled. About 12 years ago, the Hillsboro School District would hire retired teachers to come into schools to perform a reading assessment called DIBELS. That way, the classroom teacher could continue their lessons. Wouldn't it make sense to have these highly skilled and experienced teachers work one-on-one with our high behavior needs to model and skill build how to regulate and function appropriately socially and academically? I'm here today to urge the district to reallocate funds to meet this demanding change in student needs. When students are supported and given the skills they need at an early age, the more years of success they will have ahead of them. Investing 4 to 6 weeks of one-on-one adult support for these students will pay dividends later on and allow for much more in-depth learning experience to occur for all students. The problem is real. The problem is in our schools, our state, and our country. It is time to face the post-COVID challenges head-on and be there for our students when they need us the most in these key developmental years. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Our next agenda item is the first reading of the 2025-26 school calendar with Brian.
Yes. Thank you. Okay, before you, you have a draft of the 25-26 school calendar. This was put together by our calendar committee. As we mentioned during the last board session, we had about 3,000 respondents to our survey, and they preferred a post-Labor Day start. So that's the calendar that's been put before you at this time. It is extremely similar to this year's calendar in almost every way. You'll notice that there's a Family Connections Day again on the Wednesday, the last Wednesday in August during our in-service week. You'll notice that that Friday before Labor Day is a non-contract day, as it was this year. which pushes an extra in-service day into September on the 2nd, so the day after Labor Day. And then we have a staggered start after that, that in-service day. I think the biggest change of this calendar was previously there was a staff development day towards the end of September. That's been moved to just in front of the non-contract day on October 10th. The reason for that was to make sure we didn't have too many shorter weeks. That way we have kind of contiguous 5-day weeks throughout the year, and only one of those weeks in October becomes a shorter week. Other than that, the end of the year ends for students on June 11th, and the last day for licensed staff will be on Friday, June 12th. The calendar committee is going to continue to be meeting. I think they have 3 meetings scheduled, and they're going to be looking at the 26-27 school year calendar. And they will most likely bring a couple of options, one a pre-Labor Day start and one a post-Labor Day start. And the reason for the pre-Labor Day start option would be in that calendar year, Labor Day comes very late. It's on the 7th, so the first day for students would be the 8th or later, which pushes back the end date into later in June. So giving you that option on which one would be preferred. Any questions for me?
So is the intent for us to adopt 1 year while we wait for the other version, or are we still thinking we might try to adopt a 2-year cycle?
Yeah, we're gonna, the intention would be to adopt 1 year right now, and then later in the year, April or May, work, possibly adopt the 26-27.
Or at least be discussing or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Thanks.
Well, is it our plan to then go back to our labor partners and everybody else and then renegotiate year 2? Or are we going to try to stay on the same? Because we decided on only 1 year, so we only have 1 year's worth of calendar, so we have to do this whole process again. Is that correct?
Yeah, the same committee will be in place, which includes our labor partners.
Okay.
And so, yeah, they will be working through the next months to work together on what that might look like for the 26-27.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'd like to commend our team on this success. I think that last year we had some community feedback that the process was going too quickly and hadn't consulted enough, and so we pivoted to have this committee with lots of input and stakeholders and find out what really was valued by our community, and to come to a place where we feel like we have all that input, we can make a consensus decision. So I think it's really great work on the team in terms of everyone coming together to work together.
Any other questions? No? Thank you, Brian. Our next agenda item is the financial report with District Financial Officer Michelle.
Thank you. I do want to make a note here that instead of my usual narrative and highlights of what's going on in the business office, I've written you guys a correspondence to you, the board, and to cabinet about a transition I'm making to Portland Public Schools in January. So, big heartfelt there. I did want to note that on our our incidents reports, we did have some questions, and I have a correction I need to make to the most current month's data that was reported for student incidents. It shows that there's 150. In fact, there are 115, so that changes the average incidents per month as well. So there's that information. Another note too, on the cash flow report, you may notice that the revenue for the month of November is comparatively low when you're looking at it compared to last year, and that has to do with the way the end of the month fell over the weekend, and our November tax collections were posted the very first week in December instead. So it does skew that a little bit when you're looking at it month by month, but as we come through the quarter, it should all tie out really closely. Any questions about the report?
Yes, whoever granted you permission to leave, I am revoking that permission. Sorry.
Thank you, Nancy. I did provide an explanation and rationale, and I really am so very thankful to have spent 13 amazing years in Hillsboro and just couldn't be more honored for that time, and thankful for the team that is here to support the transition, the new person coming in, a fantastic superintendent who's supportive all the way around, even though he too did not seem very excited about this change. Thank you, Travis, for that. 100% supportive.
Yes, even though I'm revoking you. Yes, we do love you and we're going to miss you. Yes.
Thank you, Nancy. I am committed to supporting the new person coming in. The superintendents have been talking about what that transition will look like. So it'll be a sunset, not a light switch off. So really want to see Hillsboro stay strong, leave it in a good position and stay strong in the future.
We wish you the best.
Thank you.
I think your leadership in Portland will do great things for the entire state. So thank you for taking on the role. Thank you for taking on the role. Your leadership in Portland is going to do good things for the schools in our state. So we know you'll be carrying out the same work on a new state.
Thank you.
Dr. Ward? Yes, we will miss you. I do have a quick question about the student incident reports. They seem significantly higher over last year's. Is there any specific thing attributed to that dramatic increase?
Yeah.
Big increase, maybe not so dramatic, but
even at 115, that is significantly higher than the prior year. And when I was visiting with Mary Beth, our risk manager, about that, she said that they've been really actively training the newer office managers as part of their onboarding on the reporting process. And she feels like that, again, anytime you mess with accessibility for reporting, it's going to change how much is being reported. So I think, from her perspective, she's definitely seeing an increase in just people participating in the reporting process.
Okay, thank you.
Dr. Lopez?
I'm glad that I'm not there in person because I'd be so sad. I'm really gonna miss you, Michelle. I think you've done an amazing job since I remember you stepping into that position, and just the improvements that you've done in our finance office, and also the advocacy and leadership you've done at the state level when it comes to advocating for stable and financial funding and our funding model. And I know that even though you're going to be over there, I still feel really good that you're going to be advocating and continuing in this space of education, which you're so knowledgeable in. But yeah, I'm really, like Nancy, I was like, I wish I could do something, have you stay here. But I also think that you helping PPS is going to have also an effect on everybody else, as they are the biggest district. So I look forward to your leadership over there as well. But we will miss you a lot.
Thank you, Erica.
I know I have not known you for very long, but I would like you to know that every financial officer I meet from this year on will be held to your very high standards. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
You can't leave it.
Oh, geez.
I'm grateful for the 13 years that you served the HSD, so thanks for that. Thanks for all the support and guidance you've given me over the time in my seat in the board chair. I think it was a shock to my system a little bit my very first year, trying to learn the job as I was doing the job. And I was very grateful to have you there to sort of explain things and help me understand along the way. I think the PERS discussions that you and your colleagues have given at OSBA conventions have helped me maybe understand a little bit more about that finally. And yeah, so wish you all the best of success. You definitely will be missed, although we will be together tomorrow. So, it ain't over yet. And yeah, the sunset that you mentioned is much like when we did the outgoing superintendent, there were a number of days contracted back. I believe we have days contracted back for Michelle to assist with the transition. I'm sure we have some great applicants, and I look forward to seeing who will attempt to fill the chair. They're not going to be able to, but yeah. Thank you very much.
Didn't realize right now with the time for goodbyes.
Yeah.
But Michelle, thank you. You have been a pillar in our community and in our district, and I personally have learned so much from you since when I joined the board. And congratulations, you will be very missed, but every single one of us, you know, we're so happy for where you're going and the impact you'll have in Portland and in our state just as a whole. So congratulations, and you will be dearly missed.
Thank you.
I guess it wasn't really goodbye time because you have the next item, but sure.
I know. Am I off the hook for the PERS talk you're going to get next?
Yeah.
Great appreciation. Thank you so much, all of you. Did we want to move ahead?
Yes. Go ahead.
Okay.
PERS
All right.
evaluation.
Yes, we do have, I do have a presentation, so I'm really glad I was able to hold it together right there. Wanted to share with you tonight some information about the recent release of the 25 through 27 PERS rates and the valuation, which is the analysis that PERS approves that sets those rates. So I wanted there to be some clear understanding around that because in Hillsboro, it is a really big cost driver, and it's a huge benefit for our staff. It really is. A pension benefit like PERS isn't commonplace in corporate, and I don't think we talk about it enough in terms of what type of a benefit it is for staff and why there are sometimes some other trade-offs in coming to work for any public agency. So I'm going to bring that information to you tonight. Please advance. Thank you. All right, so we skipped over the agenda slide really fast. There we go. So we're going to review the rate setting cycle that PERS uses. We're going to compare our current rates to our upcoming rates. We're going to look at the evaluation highlights for 23 that set the upcoming rates. Talk a little bit about side accounts and how they impact our valuation and rates, and then looking ahead. Glad I was able to read that whole slide for you guys. Okay. Again, my instructional friends have taught me that I need to incorporate this into my presentation, that the learner will be able to, the listener will be able to. Thank you, Audrey and Neville. Understand the basic facts of the PERS obligation, an impact of the valuation, and discuss some mitigation strategies. So every district in Oregon is if it's not in front of the board yet, it will be probably as part of the budget development period because it will be impactful in the upcoming year. Please advance. Okay, so step one, reviewing the rate setting cycle. Go ahead. Okay, so this was a clever image I put together all by myself. Pretty proud of it. So it's really important to have a basic understanding of how the pension for the future benefits are funded and the employee rates are set. The employee contributions of 6% are one leg of the funding stool. Employer contributions are variable, and it's really dependent on how the market performs. PERS assumes that there will be a 6.9% annual rate of return on all of their investments, and so anything less than that creates an offsetting increase in employer rates. Please advance. Here's the valuation process and timeline. You can see that the rate setting valuation, it's the end of an odd year, and that will set the employer contribution rates for the upcoming biennium. So it's really over quite a span of time. It's not that unlike our state school funding cycle as well, which can be over a very long period of time. as well. I think the desire there is to have it not be very fluctuating, but it is. Because over the last couple of years, it's been kind of a roller coaster in terms of market earnings and a couple other factors. So you can see it's the 23 valuation that's setting our upcoming rates, and the 25 will set the biennium after that. Please advance. Okay, so this is the funded status and unfunded actuarial liability. So that's the UAL. That's not a separate thing. That's the portion of the future pension benefits that are owed but aren't realized. So there's no cash to back it up, and that's what makes it an unfunded liability. So you can see the valuation for 2021, the UAL, excluding the side accounts, was $20 billion for the state of Oregon. All public employers are included here. And including the side accounts, it was $13.4 billion, which was funded at 86%. 2023, quite an increase in the UAL. So the larger the liability, the lower the funded status of the system. And so you can see that carry through, excluding and including the side accounts. Please advance. All right, so this is a wordy slide about employer rates. So every employer has a different valuation based on the demographics of their staff and the type of pension obligations they have in the future. And that creates a challenge when the state is trying to fund, especially K-12, because every school district in Oregon will have a different employer rate, which impacts what their current service level needs are. So side accounts are deposits made to PERS, just a lump sum that PERS receives. Districts, if they have a surplus, which is kind of funny, they can just put a bunch of cash with PERS and that will be invested into a side account. Or they can do sell pension obligation loans, which Hillsboro School District has done 2 times. Once in 2005 in a pool with a bunch of other districts, and then again in 2015. So we have 2 side accounts. And those side accounts are generally drawn down over 20 to 25 years. And those earnings above regular earnings will create a rate credit, which will give you a discount from compared to an employer that didn't sell pension obligation bonds. The time that you sell the bonds are pretty critical. You can lose in that if the rates aren't favorable at the time. But in Hillsboro, up until this new valuation, has been a good thing for us. It's important to note too, and there's an illustration coming up, that the employer contribution rates to PERS, they don't include the rate that we pay towards paying those bonds back. Like it's not magic money. We took out a loan, we sold bonds, we have debt service obligation for that, and those aren't included in the published rates for PERS. Please advance. Okay, I know that this one is super tiny to read, but I'll read it anyway. It's comparing the 23-25, our current biennium rates, to the upcoming rates. And you can see the first kind of highlighted, potentially, you can see it. School district rate. So this is for any school district that didn't sell bonds. This is the PERS rate that they would pay directly to PERS. So for Tier 1, Tier 2, they would pay 27.87 in 23 to the 25 biennium, and that is increasing to 29.7 in the new biennium. So that's how you would read this chart if it were large enough to read. You could see that Hillsboro School District, in comparison to that, we are much lower. We're going from 16.69% to 23.39%. We're still lower than the regular school rate, but our increase was much, much higher between the two biennium. The challenge for us is that we have bond debt service at 7.85% that we pay on top of what we pay to PERS. Again, that gives us a total pension rate for the district. So we're going, in effect, we're going from 24.54 to 31.24. And for the first time, this puts us over the regular school rate as if we didn't sell bonds. That's a challenge. All right, so moving ahead. Go ahead, thank you. All right, this is our perfect storm valuation. So again, this is coming on the tail of the pandemic. So one of those long ripples that we're experiencing. In 21 through 23, the 2-year period of the valuation, we all of PERS earned less than the 6.9% assumed rate. So that means market earnings were less, and then our payrolls, which were assumed to grow at 5.4%, grew quite a bit more. And the expiration of our 2005 side account leaves no time to re-amortize what's remaining for a rate credit. And so that combination of things is creating that 6.5% increase, average increase in PERS rate. All right, I'm just going to keep going through here. And I don't think I'm going to read all through this in detail. Those are the specific numbers. I know you have access to this information, but this is reflecting the exact amount that we were below market earnings on this slide. And then the next one, thank you, is the higher payroll than projected. So that just shows that for us, our payroll rate was significantly higher as we were coming out of the pandemic, a period where perhaps we had some staffing shortages, we had some gaps in payroll, and then coming into directly the after period as we were staffing back up and settling our agreements, we had pretty significant spike in our payroll. We also had a lot of one-time funds that we were using at that time and additional state funds such as the student investment account and high school success. All of that was happening at the same time. All right, my superintendent asked me to include this slide because he went to a presentation that was very similar, and the illustration here basically explains how the side accounts are working, and as they expire, you have less and less ability to re-amortize those earnings to create that rate credit that will give you savings instead of additional employer rate charges. Travis, did you want to add anything about this slide?
I think you understand this way more deeply than I do, but this was the first time that I recognized why the drawdown of our initial side account would impact our ability to get the rate credit to keep our costs low. Is that right, Michelle?
Yes.
It just took a simple picture for me to understand something I hadn't understood before.
That's a complex picture. There's a lot going on. Arrows and circles and triangles. Okay, moving ahead.
Michelle, I will say that this PERS adjustment that everybody's being forced to make, and let's be clear, everybody.
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 All public employers.
Everybody in the state is having to make this adjustment. And it's heart-wrenching to some degree. It's disappointing, but it is life. So thank you for at least trying to make us understand. And sometimes the visual helps. But I just wanted to acknowledge that this isn't just exclusive to Hillsboro School District. This is impacting every entity in the state right now, especially if you're a public employee. And the impact is not positive across the board. It is not positive. So sometimes it's just nice to know you're not the only one. And I can't imagine what these numbers are going to look like for Portland Public.
I can. anymore. I don't really want to talk about it. Thank you for that. And I do think it's important that we have an understanding of the decisions that were made to create those side accounts. That's nothing we should lament. I mean, that was a great decision, and it has saved us over $50 million over the last 20 years. So that's a really incredible thing to see that it's switching around our rate at this time, given the economic experience of the state. Like, we just need to take that and adjust. And like you said, all other public employers are having to go through the same thing. Community colleges, cities, counties. So we're not alone in this for sure. All right, so our average between Tier 1, Tier 2, and OPSERP is an increase of 6.53 percentage points for the biennium, and each point's about $1.6 million to the general fund alone, equaling about $21 million for the biennium. And so this new information has been calculated into our negotiations as we're working with our union partners, and that's really the situation looking forward. There is no impact at this time to member benefits without legislative action. So there would take some type of constitutional change for PERS to be impacted, for reforms to occur that may lower that unfunded liability. That's over years and years, that is something that has been tried to do, but at this point, there's no action to change or reform the system that's been announced. All right. Thank you, Kira. Things to remember, like I said, we have saved $50 million in PERS due to the 2005 and 2015 side accounts being established. It's an Oregon problem. Thank you, Nancy. The information will be incorporated into advocacy efforts and service level calculations. Even though the governor's budget didn't seem to include that for K-12, there's going to be a lot of people talking about this and advocating for it to be included. And, we're just going to have to build into the budget process how to mitigate this moving forward. And that just a reminder that PERS benefits, again, they're deferred income for all public employees. This is a guaranteed pension benefit. And so that's something that's really desirable in terms of attracting employees. So that's something that's good to remember. That was a lot. I'm happy to take questions now, or you can send them to me afterwards. I'm happy to follow up.
Any questions for Michelle?
Thank you for that presentation. I'm not sure I'd ever taken the time to think through site accounts in a lot of detail, so it's good to know. I'm trying to, in my head, work through what are real savings and what are shifted costs, and what are, so with site accounts, how would you say it's functionally, not in the way it actually, not in the machinery, but in the functional, conceptual, is it similar to issuing bonds and investing the proceeds of those bonds in some investment instrument, and then using the difference between the investment returns and the bond rate to fund, that's essentially what we're doing. We're just doing it through PERS.
Yes, PERS was doing that on our behalf.
Okay. So really the advantage that we are saving $50 million is because we have bonding authority.
Correct.
And we were able to get lower cost bonds than what our student returns.
Yeah, especially in the 2005 when we were in a school pool, that was a much larger number than just in 2015 when we went on our own. So it yielded a much greater credit, but it also has a much higher debt service obligation to return, pay those bonds off.
Yeah, it's an interesting system. I appreciate you explaining it. I think sometimes aspects of the way PERS is designed and funded because it's been changed over the years by the legislature. It feels at this point, even though each individual decision is understandable, it feels a little Rube Goldberg as how it's all sort of compounded together. But yeah, it's very interesting, and I appreciate you. So the 50 million we've saved, that's just in nominal dollars over, and so
Yeah, that's between the school rate and what we would pay.
right. So that's otherwise we could have bonded for some other capital purpose, but we chose to bond for this purpose, and that's why we saved $50 million to a degree.
I'm not sure that was the rationale at the time. But these bonds, we're not collecting taxes to pay them back like we would for a general obligation bond. It's coming right out of our operating budget. So it's different in that sense that we didn't.
That's a fair point. That's a different point.
The board authorized it, but the community did not vote to impose a tax.
Right. It's very different that way. But do we have the authority to issue bonds or to buy bonds this way? Issue bonds, I guess is what you say. For any purpose, or is it just for this one purpose that we're authorized to?
I'll have to look into that.
I was curious. Is that the idea of issuing bonds in order to prepay or to invest funds to reduce future liabilities is interesting, and I'm curious maybe I'll follow up. I'm curious how school districts in the past decided what amount to issue bonds in, and what level of risk they were comfortable with. It does sound like with a pool, like you were talking about, that locking in that rate makes a lot of sense. But anyway, thank you for everything.
Yeah, no, if I'll try and capture your question and get that too. We do have specialists that we work with. It's not something we, like a scheme that we came up on our own with. And there was some analysis done, and it was brought to the board at the time, and it was approved at the time. So, thank you, Patrick.
Can I just add one thing too? In the seminar that I attended, that Michelle and I discussed, there are a couple of school districts that issued bonds prior to the crash and have not made back the money. In fact, they're going to have a net loss repaying those bonds. And the conversation spun into, what if today we decided to pool and do the same thing? And the folks there from Rapid White were saying, no, let's not talk about that. This would not be an advantageous time to consider doing that, mostly because of the volatility of the market. And so this conversation takes place also over a 20-year span of time where we've learned the pros and cons of this strategy that you're asking about. So I appreciate your questions, Patrick.
So a couple things. The historic decline of the general market during the pandemic is indeed partly responsible for the low PERS return rates, and the PERS assessments are essentially a lagging indicator. We're paying now for what happened 2.5 years ago or whatever. So looking forward, looking ahead, with the historic gains that have been made in the last couple of years, I know PERS is lagging, but it would seem like the PERS returns would be higher than 6.9% for the next time we have to do this. Does that feel about right?
Well, we'll get another report. There's an advisory evaluation that'll come out after 2024 is closed.
Yeah.
And they'll look at that. But it's still kind of lagging behind the 6.9% average rate of return so far.
Really?
So yeah, and they publish that on their website. So I'll send that out to you guys in a board update.
I get why it would be down in 2021, 2022. I guess I don't understand why it's not keeping up today. But all right. Second question. One of the other impacts of this sort of one-time historic increase was, as you mentioned, the increased amount of people on our payroll. As ESSER funds expire, we were using one-time funds for. Is that number decreasing now? And I guess what I'm trying to get at is, will schools, public employees, be expecting historic rates increases for the next 10 years, next decade, or is this really what what's giving people the idea that this is a one-time thing?
It's going to plateau. I mean, they've done, even the last board meeting, the one they just had, they showed like a
Yeah.
high-low medium outlook, and it doesn't show it necessarily being a spike, but maybe this biennium and next biennium of those cited counts across the state tend to expire. There's going to be this higher rate, but they do foresee it coming back down if all of the assumptions they're making around the system come true. So that's good.
In 4 or so years.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. All right. Sorry.
I was surprised that the tier 1-2 rate isn't higher than that much higher than that. It's pretty close to the general service, OSPRS. But do we have about how much of our charges is the higher tier 1-2 rate?
It's right around half.
Oh, really? Still half? Okay.
Yeah. It is shifting. It's changing over time, as you can imagine.
And you mentioned that legislative action is the only thing that can change it. We haven't had much of that recently. There was controversy, whatever, a little bit ago. But just reminder for my colleagues, or like something I've gained from my various seminars, is the legislature has tried before to address some things, and the Supreme Court has struck down that on more than one occasion, saying, for one, you can't make any changes to benefits that have already been earned. So when the legislature attempted to sort of change how the distributions would be made for people who have already retired, the state Supreme Court said, no, you cannot do that. So I do think we're getting to the point where legislative options are minimal to make changes, because the OPSER portion is pretty financially sound.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes, that has been remade a couple of times. And I want to say it was 2020, 2019, maybe there were some reforms to the system as well, some changes to benefits looking forward that occurred.
It's only because they were looking forward, right? And it was 17 or whatever, where they tried to make a change and the Supreme Court struck it down.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it is about 60% of the liability, the unfunded liability that we're targeting. That's for pensions for folks that are no longer contributing to the system, which again kind of compounds the pressure on the organizations and the people who are.
But it's also earned benefits for people who've already done the work. It's benefits earned for doing the work that you did. So I mean, we owe those obligations.
Yep.
People accepted lower salaries because they were getting these benefits, and so they're.
So when you mentioned, Patrick said, what percentage is at tier 1, which is ultimately the longer tenured staff members. If 50% of us, yikes, tier 1, that means that there's potentially, what percentage of that 50% is eligible for retirement in the next 5 years?
That's an HR question. I can't answer that off the top of my head, but I know that we do have that data and we track it. But as we mentioned earlier tonight during the executive session, where the staffing is, we've seen a switch in those, and the folks on the bottom steps.
And I apologize, it was a rhetorical question. I knew you wouldn't have that answer, but that's where my mind goes, because if we have 50% that are in tier 1, that means you've arguably got 20 plus years service, depending on when you started. And that makes a big difference. And then we have to plan, along with everything else that's coming, to replace them and then continue to pay for their benefits that, as Mark alluded, they've already put into the system and they should receive that. God forbid nothing happen to federal funds that we got that
Most tier 1 employees are already retired, though.
Correct.
Yeah, but that 50% obligation, a considerable portion of that goes to people who are already not working in our district.
Yes, that is true.
Well, if that's true, then that puts it in a different light. Got it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions for Michelle? No? Thank you.
Thank you.
We have 3 action items this evening. Our first is to declare surplus equipment and authorize disposal. Would anyone would like to make a motion?
I move that the Board of Directors declare the HSD Facilities and Information Technology Department equipment surplus and authorize the disposal in accordance with district surplus procedures.
It has been moved by Director Watson and seconded by Director McGuire that the Board of Directors declare the HSD Facilities and Information Technology Department equipment surplus and authorize the disposal in accordance with district surplus procedures. Is there any further discussion? Director Ward?
I just want to say thank you to Saida and for my question. I had a question about where the IT recycling stuff was going because that wasn't mentioned in the packet. So I appreciate you researching that. Thank you.
Thank you for your question.
Thank you. Rose, can we get a roll call, please?
Sheehan Kim.
Aye.
Erica Lopez.
Aye.
Patrick McGuire.
Aye.
Nancy Thomas.
Aye.
Monique Ward.
Aye.
Mark Watson.
Aye.
Yvette Pantoja.
Aye. And with that, motion carries. Our next agenda item is to accept annual comprehensive financial report for 2023-2024. Would anyone like to make a motion?
I move for the last one that Michelle is doing, that the Board of Directors accept the annual comprehensive financial report for 2023-2024. And I do it in total because I'm gonna miss you.
Second.
It has been moved by Director Thomas and seconded by Director Ward that the Board of Directors accept the annual comprehensive financial report for 2023-2024. Is there any further discussion?
I'd just like to say thank you to the audit committee members and Superintendent Ryman who met with our auditors prior to the meeting tonight to hear about the process, hear about some highlights in the document, and then get their questions answered. So thank you for that extra time and attention.
Thank you. Rose, could we get a roll call, please?
Sheehan Kim.
Aye.
Erica Lopez.
Aye.
Patrick McGuire.
Aye.
Nancy Thomas.
Aye.
Monique Ward.
Aye.
Mark Watson.
Aye.
Yvette Pantoja.
Aye. Motion carries. Our last action item is to adopt planning calendar for the 2025-2026 budget. Would anyone like to make a motion?
I move that the Board of Directors adopt the planning calendar for the 25-26 budget.
Second. It has been moved by Director McGuire, seconded by Director Kim, that the Board of Directors adopt the planning calendar for the 2025-2026 budget. Is there any further discussion? Yes, Director Lopez?
I just wanted to say again, thank you for the extra process. I know Kana and our staff had to do a different process this time around, and I'm glad that all of that came to fruition and we have now a calendar and hoping to get the other one done ahead of time as well.
Erica, this is related to the budget development.
Oh, I thought it was the other calendar.
No.
I would just say thank you to Michelle for preparing the calendar in advance of your departure, giving your successor a nice blueprint from which to work.
Thank you. And while I still have the mic and it's on, I just missed my chance to thank Jeff Jones for all of his work on our financial report. It's award-winning, and it's a lot of numbers and documentation of every single number in there. So I just want to give him a big thank you as well.
Thank you. No? Rose, could we get a roll call, please?
Sheehan Kim.
Aye.
Erica Lopez.
Aye.
Patrick McGuire.
Aye.
Nancy Thomas.
Aye.
Monique Ward.
Aye.
Mark Watson.
Aye.
Yvette Pantoja.
Aye.
Thank you.
Motion carries. And with that, that concludes our agenda items and brings us to HCU, HEA reports. No, hold on. Just kidding. Backtracking. We have information, administrative regulations update with Superintendent Ryman.
Yeah, thank you. These are just the ARs that would be updated based on the presentation that you saw from Saida and Ryan, the work session. If there are any questions, Saida can answer them for us.
Any questions?
No, I do want to acknowledge that was a lot of work. Thank you for opening us to Facilitron and everything that that does, and we are definitely on the right trajectory. Our community will, they may feel some type of way initially, but they will come to understand we have to do this. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
Any other questions? No? Thank you. Okay. And now, that concludes our agenda items and brings us to HCU, HEA reports, and we will go ahead and hear Mary Kay.
Vice Chair Pantoja, Vice Chair Watson, fellow board members, Superintendent Ryman, and administrative leaders. My name is Mary Kay Babcock. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm a proud youth educator of 28 years. I'm honored to serve as the president of the Hillsboro Education Association. I would like to thank our first grade educator, Christina Cosmos, for speaking tonight regarding the need for student support based on the impact of the pandemic. Behaviors are increasing, and tonight's incident report clearly reflects the status of injuries. We look forward to the revised version with the updated data. We are now in the month 12 of our contract negotiations, and we are reaching a critical point. HEA sincerely appreciated the special session on November 26th, which allowed our bargaining team to receive the district's counter proposals, helping ensure that tomorrow's final scheduled bargaining session will be as productive and efficient as possible. However, we still have 7 critical articles open. Article 5, unit member work year, work day. Article 6, unit member workload. Article 7, safety and student discipline. Article 11, leaves. Article 15, salary. Article 16, employee benefits. And Article 20, extra duty. These are significant issues, and it's a heavy lift for our team to ensure our counter proposals address the needs of our educators. We are working tirelessly to make progress, and we're optimistic that we'll see movement tomorrow. However, we must be clear, progress on these key issues is urgent. Our bargaining platform continues to focus on priorities that make a real difference for our educators and our students. Class size and caseloads that support student success, the safe learning environment for students and staff, compensation that helps recruit and retain educators, appropriate planning time to meet student needs, and time to manage IEPs and 504s to ensure full support of students. Last month, I closed my address with this statement. Real progress happens when we work together and agree these are the solutions to achieve schools where our educators and our students thrive. This remains true, and now more than ever, it is crucial that we work together to make these priorities a reality. We are encouraged by the recent budget recommendations from Governor Tina Kotek for the 25-27 biennium, which include a much-needed increase in K-12 funding. Her budget reflects a commitment to the future of education in Oregon, with an overall increase in proposed K-12 funding from $10.2 billion in 2023 to $11.36 billion in 2025. This includes a $600 million increase to the current service level, which will help meet the rising costs, including updated PERS rates. Additionally, the budget provides targeted funding for crucial programs like early literacy, summer learning, and student behavioral health. These recommendations are moving our priorities in the right direction, and although we recognize advocacy still needs to be done by all of us to achieve the quality education model. Finally, I would like to take a moment to thank our HSD's Chief Financial Officer, Michelle Morrison, for her years, 13, dedicated to the service in HSD. We wish her all the best as she transitions to Portland Public Schools. As we head into the winter break, I urge all of us to remain focused and united. This time to address the needs of our educators and students is now, and we wish you all a very happy and joyful holiday season.
Good evening. My name is David Eggleston. I'm a school bus driver of 20 plus years with Hillsboro School District. Greetings, Board of Trustees, student representatives, Superintendent Ryman, and administrators. Those of you in the audience online and in person tonight, thank you all for being here. Current activity with Hillsboro Classified United. We too are in bargaining. We're not quite to our final session yet, but we are down. We've done over 2/3 of the articles in the contract, and we're just so grateful for the members of our bargaining team and the district bargaining team. Chair Pantoja has been a part of that and engaged with us. Thank you. We have some work left to do, particularly, I think, key areas include compensation and safety and health. And in this room, you've heard some of the stories, some of the impacts that our licensed and classified staff have experienced in the classroom, on the school bus, on school campuses. We've had 90 impact statements shared regarding the lack of funding and its impact to classified staff, both in and out of the classroom. And so you know the stories. And here in this room, the story also of the districts, the need here for finances in the district to help support staffing, to help support our students. The need is critical. Also today and tomorrow and Thursday, we have representation from HCU at the Legislative Committee Days down in Salem, advocating on behalf of all staff, on behalf of the school district, for the needs that school districts across the state of Oregon are experiencing. It's real. The impacts are real. So 1 year ago was the first time I got to present to the board. I'm membership chair with HCU and also on the bargaining team. And I wore this shirt a year ago, December 6th of last year. It's my HSD shirt, Know, Value, and Empower Every Student. And then these are some other shirts that I have a transportation shirt and some shirts representing, family. And here's one of my favorites that's worn out. It says, "It takes a whole village to raise a child." And so tonight, on behalf of HCU, I hope to remind us all that we're modeling for our students in how we bargain, in the stories we share, how we treat one another in the hallways and classrooms and cafeteria, and board meetings. The students are watching us, I'm pretty sure, watching how we handle when resources are scarce, how we handle when times are difficult. And so we have the opportunity as a whole village to support our students in how we handle the social, political, and economic milieu in which we all find ourselves, not only here in Oregon or in the United States, but around the world. And so I think our district slogan, motto, Know, Value, and Empower, our vision, is so important, once again, for us to do with one another, to know, value, and empower each other as licensed, as classified, and as administrators. That perhaps one of the deepest lessons for our students today is maybe especially coming out of COVID, as our teacher Cosmos shared, is we have a tremendous opportunity to demonstrate this vision, to embody it. And so we would ask once again as HCU that administrators, licensed staff, that you would endeavor in the midst of the crunch to treat classified staff as being of value and knowing us and empowering us. And we will endeavor as HCU to help support our staff in reaching out and knowing and valuing and empowering all of you. And together, maybe we can be part of the whole village, raising our kids today, tomorrow, and in the years to come. Thank you.
Thank you. And this brings us to discussion time, and we will go ahead and start with our student reps. Okay.
First of all, I wanted to say thank you all for coming out tonight. It's so great to see so many faces. I know it's a very busy time. Everyone's trying to get everything done before the holidays. I hope you all had a great Thanksgiving, because I did. So I think I can't have as much say as a student rep in budget, but I definitely appreciate being a part of it and learning it. It's a good skill. I'm glad that I can see these people and just experience it outside of just the schools. Like, I'm glad that this can be part of my life as well. Thank you.
Yes, hello everybody. I hope everybody had a great Thanksgiving, and unfortunately, I could not be here for the earlier meeting, but I'm very happy to be here now. And I just wanted to take this time to remind everybody to be going outside when it's sunny outside, because it's been getting darker earlier and earlier and earlier.
I first want to say that I like the cards that Rose used today to signify that someone needed to speak louder. I assume they had different words on the other side. And I wish we had some at my school for some people who spoke in public. This latter note is addressed to the board of directors, but I feel it holds true for anyone who works in education, anyone who serves to teach others. I noticed that this crescent table that we sit at is symmetrical up to this point right here, where another section seems to have been added after the fact. I hope that other districts follow your example of literally making room at your table for students. Thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent Ryan.
It's hard to follow the thoughtfulness of our students. Thank you for those comments. I appreciate the continued forward progress of our negotiations with HEA and HCU. Thank you to the bargaining teams on both sides of the negotiating table. Much appreciated for your time and energy. It's been a while since we met, and I wanted to share that on November 23rd, I had a classic Hillsboro day. I started with the Tamale Festival at the M&M Market, where I served as a judge during a fundraiser for the Hillsboro Schools Foundation and had one of the best culinary experiences of my life. Testing each of the tamales from the local vendors, and I scored each one a 10 because I believed that each of them was perfect in its own style and flavor. And I really appreciate the Schools Foundation for partnering with the M&M Market to do some innovative fundraising for our schools. After that, I went to Clue, the murder mystery at Hillsboro High School, which was amazing. They had a movable set because you have to enter 15 different rooms on a clue board, and The students put on an incredible production. I was able to see the matinee before going to the Hillsboro Holly Days and the tree lighting at the Civic Center, at which time I realized this is an incredible town that we live in, and what a great community that we share. There's so many activities to do as a family, and I was just proud to be HSD for a moment. I felt like sharing that with you all. Congratulations to Francesca and her team. We have, as a school district, won awards for student success to support students who identify as Native Hawaiian and Pacific Islander, another award for students who identify as Latina, Latino, Latinx, and another grant for students who identify as Black, African, or African American, all through the Student Success Act. And those sum to $3.5 million over the next 4 years, based on the work that Francesca and our parent engagement, our PACs, our family outreach liaisons have done to energize our community, support our students. So congratulations to Francesca, and more to come on how we'll invest those dollars in student success over the coming years. I wanted to celebrate some good press we got on Oregon Live regarding post-COVID attendance gains across the state. We celebrated as an admin team last week the improvements in attendance that we've made in HSD. That's one of our strategic plan priority areas. And called out in the article was also Glencoe High School for their data regarding 9th grade on-trackness among students who qualify for economic supports like free and reduced lunch. And so our students experiencing economic disadvantage are more and more on track. And Glencoe High School was called out as an exemplar among high schools for the work that they've done for 9th grade on track. Another of our strategic plan focal areas. Lastly, I did want to thank Michelle for her service. This is her last meeting, 13 years. You have led with integrity and perseverance and creativity and a sincere love for kids and staff in our community. And we love you, and we support your move, and we support you sticking around to help us with the transition. I want to personally thank you for helping me transition to the role of superintendent. I appreciate you. Best of luck. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go ahead and move on with the Board of Directors. Would we start following with Director Lopez?
I don't have much to add more than, again, thank you, Michelle, for your time with us. And we're really going to miss you, but I know that we're going to hear from you soon as well.
Thank you, Director Ward.
I want to say thank you to Cabinet once again for your responsiveness to my questions, and especially Michelle and Jeff. Really appreciated the efforts that you put forward with the budget and for the report and for the presentation at the audit meeting this afternoon. It was very informative, and appreciate that very much. And lastly, to say Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to everyone, and see you in 2025.
Thank you, Director Kim.
Just want to say thank you to all of the presenters today, as well as the teacher who spoke during our public comment session. Really appreciated hearing what she had to say. Also want to appreciate our HCU and HA partners, especially during this bargaining session, and also my board colleagues who are participating in the long hours that it takes for all the bargaining sessions. So looking forward to hopefully an optimistic meeting result tomorrow. And Michelle, just sending all my love. I appreciate that you have made yourself available even on a contract basis, even after your move as a consultant, if we ever need you. So just really appreciate that there will always be a part of HSD in you, and you'll always remain as a part of us too. So you will be dearly missed. And also Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, everyone. Hope to see you in the new year.
Thank you. Director Thomas?
Again, just a sincere and heartfelt thank you to Michelle and for everything you do. It has been nothing less than a thrill and a privilege to be in the room and to say things like, our CFO makes sure we We know what's going on. We know where the numbers are. We have faith in her, and she trusts us. And so that's big. And I have no doubt that you are going to bless Portland Public Schools. If they do not behave accordingly, you let me know, and I will come to protect you. But we thank you. We really do. You deserve it. I'm not going to comment whether they deserve it, but you deserve it. But we're going to miss you, and thank you for everything. It's interesting because I wasn't sure how to say what I wanted to say next, but I got an envelope, and I think this actually works for both you and Michelle, for you and I. I had an envelope sitting at my table, and it was actually from Colin. And it is a poem, and it's called Community. It says, somewhere there are people to whom we can speak with passion without having the words catch in our throats. Somewhere is a circle of hands that will open to receive us, eyes that will light up as we enter, and voices will celebrate with us whenever we come into our own power. Community means strength that joins our strength to do the work that needs to be done. Arms to hold us when we fall. A circle of healing, a circle of friends. Someplace where we can be free. And with that, you are being blessed, and you are going to Portland. Oh, I am being blessed, and I'm going to endeavor to do the thing that is most uncomfortable for me, and that is campaigning, and I'm going to run again because of community. So thank you.
Thank you, Director Thomas. Director McGuire?
Some of you may know that I mentioned in previous years, one of my top 5 things to do around the holiday season is attending the Oregon Chorale's Christmas concert. They have such a lovely mix of classical hymns around Christmas and new compositions, and they just do a wonderful job every year. And it's really neat to see how Hillsboro School students are integrated into the work there. The Oregon Chorale is one of the only auditioned community choirs in our area that does. So they have an internship program, Emerging or Aspiring Voices, where they have 4 students from the Hillsboro Beaverton area come and participate with their experienced professional singers. And they also, at the concerts, at least at the Christmas concert, they have choirs from our high schools. They do a Saturday and a Sunday performance. And the Sunday one I went to, it was Liberty High School that came up and did a couple of songs with the Liberty choir, concert choir program. And Josh Pounders, was the teacher at Liberty, and he came up and conducted the student choir. So it's a lovely experience to be at the Oregon Chorale, but even more so, it's very special to see our high school students learning and growing. So that's a real highlight. Thank you to Mr. Pounders and to Mr. Sabino at Century High as well. He's actually the conductor and artistic director of the Oregon Chorale in his days off of being a Century High School choir teacher. So it's a very special thing. I encourage anyone who enjoys that sort of art to attend. Other than that, I just briefly mentioned that I appreciated the public testimony from one of our teachers today. It's my ambition and goal that every teacher in our district feels like they have every support they need to be fully successful and meet student needs. And so anytime there's a teacher who says that this new challenges emerge, I don't feel like I fully have the support I need, it's something I want to see work put into resolving. So I appreciate this educator sharing their experience. I think those experiences from those who are directly working with students are extremely valuable. So I appreciate that.
Thank you, Director McGuire. Director Watson?
Thank you, and thanks, Michelle, for making me a little bit better at this job than maybe I probably would have been without you. So you'll be missed. Everything we said before. Best guess on when this building was built? 2000? So you're right, Cal, for about 20 or so of those years, there was no student section at the table, and we did create it during our tenure here, and I'm very glad that we had. So, and congrats to our facilities people for figuring out how we would make that work. I remember at the time it was even a discussion of, okay, what do we do now? I think we had them signed up, our first class signed up. We're like, okay, we got to find a spot for them to sit. So yes, that was added, and it was added with intent. And to the point our speaker earlier mentioned, you know, the work at the legislature is going to just begin soon, and I appreciate the efforts of Governor Kotek to try to correct the inaccurate way we've been calculating current service level for at least a decade or so. I also think the historic PERS situation should be taken into account for, and I don't believe it has been yet. So I appreciate those efforts, but I would also love to also mention once again, current service level is the definition. Try to keep doing at least what we're doing right now. And I don't think that should be our target in a growing economy. I think we should be figuring out how to make investments, not do the bare minimum. I'm grateful to have been able to serve on the bargaining committee with a licensed team. I look forward to hanging out tomorrow. Optimism's high, but I think no matter what happens, the work will not be done, and the teachers in our community deserve better than what we have the ability to provide. So with that, I guess I'll join what Nancy said. So I feel like the work is not done, so it is also my intent to seek to retain this position in May. When the election ends, you got to already start working on another one. So yes, it is my intent to continue in this role if the community will have me. I realize my opportunity to serve my community is limited and won't last forever, so at least we'll have a chance. I want to try to keep doing it. There's about a dozen holidays remaining before the end of the year, so if you celebrate one of them, I hope it ends up working out great for you. Even if you don't celebrate one of them, I hope your 2025 is great as well. Thanks.
Thank you, Director Watson. I wanted to start with thanking the cabinet team for their leadership and the work that you do for HSD. And Michelle, the maven that you are when it comes to your work, should be studied. And with the year and a half that I've known you, you have shown me kindness and grace as I stepped into this role, and you will be missed. It is a great loss for Hillsboro, but an extremely great gain for Portland, and not just for Portland, but for everyone in the state of Oregon. And I hope that your knowledge and your work there reshapes, you know, how public education is funded. And there is a lot of work in that. And I want to also thank our student representatives and everyone who was here tonight who spoke and was able to join. And with that, you know, as the holidays are here, I hope you guys have good, happy, and safe holidays. And with that, this meeting is adjourned at 8:31.